Hello guys, welcome back to my channel. Today's video is going to be a concealer review. I'm on the journey of testing a bunch of concealers in order to find the ones that work best for my skin type, which is dry. I did a foundation video, like my favorite foundations for dry skin, and you guys really loved it, and someone did ask me to do one for concealers. I am a concealer of habit girl. I've been using the same two concealers for like 3 years, which is the Nude Sticks Nude Fix concealer and the Clinique Even Better concealer. They're my trieds and trues. But when someone asked like, oh, can you do it for concealers, I realized I had to expand my concealer usage and I had to try some new concealers. So this is a concealer that did not work for me. So I wanted to put it in its own separate video because I really don't see people doing many review videos anymore. And back when I was first starting out on YouTube and just starting out with makeup, like I really relied on these types of videos. So we're gonna go through why I do not like the Flower Beauty Get Real Serum Concealer. I bought this concealer originally because I really wanted a drugstore concealer. A lot of the concealers I love are higher end. They are a little bit pricey, and I wanted to find a tried and true drugstore one that I liked. The only drugstore concealer I've really loved has been the e.l.f. Camo Hydrating Concealer, and it's been a while since I've used that. So this was interesting to me because it is a serum concealer, and serum concealers typically are more hydrating. They're more skincare-like, and as someone who has dry skin, that is exactly the kind of thing I look for when I'm looking for base products. The claims here is buildable coverage, hydrating, brightening, and smoothing. And I got the shade Porcelain, which is the lightest shade. And my first issue is with the shade, not necessarily like the shade itself, but you see how this is in the tube. And it's a clear tube, so this is the shade we think we're gonna get. We put it on the back of our hand here. So this is what it looks like on the back of my hand, and it looks like it exactly in the tube. You look like, oh yeah, I'm gonna get this. But upon blending it out, at least for me, I feel like the concealer shade starts to look a little bit gray. And especially when I had it on my face, it looked really gray. I think it just has a bit too much white in the formulation of the concealer. It is gray, but at the same time, it's like a peachy gray. It's not my favorite color match at all. It's not even a color match. I just feel like this isn't it for me. I did feel a little bit gray when I was wearing this. It looked a little bit gray on my skin. It just also blend out to be like way lighter than the tube. So you think you're going to get this specific shade of concealer, and it ends up being much lighter than you're expecting. And I am not somebody who loves a super brightening concealer. Like, I don't like a concealer that's 2 or 3 shades lighter than my foundation. I like them to be like pretty close because I don't know, it's just not the look I personally like. So when I first applied this to my face and started blending, I was like, oh, this is white. This is very fair. That's my first issue with it. The second, it says buildable coverage. I think that's true. I think you can build this. It's a medium coverage. I think you can build it to full, but I think when you build it, it becomes a little cakey, and it does not look hydrating at all under the eyes. It says hydrating, and that's my next claim that I want to debunk. It's not. It feels like it is on the back of your hand. Like, you like test it out, you're like, oh, this feels really good, you know, I think this is gonna be really hydrating. But what I found was the more I used this concealer, and I've used it with a bunch of different foundations, my tried and true foundations I've been using forever that I always love, that always works with everything, primers that I've always been loving that always work. And I found with this concealer, there would be days where I'd be wearing the same foundation as I did the other day when it looked okay. But today, that day, it looked really dry under my eyes. It looked, yeah, like it almost looked like crackly. Like it didn't look flattering underneath the eyes. I think also the concealer like blending out to be much lighter than it looks in the tube just made my face look ghostly. I also don't typically mind when a concealer is really pink toned, because pink tones in concealers, like the Clinique Even Better concealer, the one I talk about all the time, it is very yellow or very pink. There is no true neutral in that concealer. But that doesn't bother me because even though the one shade that I use is really pinky, the pinky tones cancel out the darkness underneath my eyes. But this, because it blends out to be like really pale and almost grayish, I feel like it accentuated my dark circles. I really wanted to love this concealer. I used it a lot. I took a lot of pictures with it and it looked pretty good in pictures, but the thing is, like, I do makeup looks and I take pictures right away, and then I do something else. Like then I'll post to Instagram, or then I'll wear it for a little bit. I'll go do dishes, I'll go cook. And I found that when I was coming back from that, it didn't look as good as when I first applied it. It looked dry. It looked pretty dry. So I don't love that, and I don't think that is there. It also says brightening. Yeah, it's brightening because there's a lot of like white pigment, I think. I think it's just a little too, I would just like it to look exactly like, I want it to look like this. I want to see what I'm getting. Like this concealer, which is also a shade Porcelain from Bobbi Brown. This is the shade I'm getting. When I apply it onto my face, when I blend it out, it's the same shade. That's what I enjoy. And then it says smoothing. And that's the other thing I want to talk about here, is that I didn't find that to be the case. Actually, I feel like it accentuated texture underneath my eyes. Again, I think it is in the formulation of the color, because I think in the way that it looked gray underneath my eyes, things started to look more unnatural, things started to peek out more, and one was the texture. My under eyes looked bumpy, which my under eyes kind of aren't. It was just settling into really strange places and bunching up on itself in really strange places. And I've tried it so many times, but the last time I used it, I remember finishing my makeup and being like, I'm not gonna use this concealer again. Like, I just don't like it. I don't think it works for me. I don't think it works for dry skin. And it's a shame, because I do think Flower Beauty as a whole, as a brand, is pretty underrated. They have my favorite mascara, the Warrior Princess mascara, my favorite drugstore mascara. I used it religiously for so long. For a long time, I used it for probably like 2-3 years. It was in a favorites video. I think they have really good products. I think they're an underrated brand. So I wanted to give them a try, but this just wasn't it. Also, like, and I know capitalism is making everything way more expensive, but drugstore concealers are getting really expensive, and this was $12, which is fine, but I could get a high-end concealer for $24 that works better. So I think there's like, for me, I would be cool with paying like what I think is a bit too much for a drugstore concealer, and I understand that I'm living in 2016 concealer prices, and it's 2024. But I just think if your concealer is half the price of a high-end one, but it does like 1/3 of the work of a high-end one, I would rather personally spend the extra $12 and get a higher end concealer, the Nude Fix concealer, that is great, self-setting, everything. This also is definitely not any kind of, it does crease, which is normal. We have under eye creases, and yet there are concealers like the Nude Fix I talk about all the time that really just does not crease. It's like a crease proof, or as crease proof as you could get concealer. And going from something like that to something like this, you know, I'm in my late 20s, so my skin's not as elastic as it was when I was 18. So I do want something that's just going to not accentuate my creases, my wrinkles, my smile, my crow's feet from smiling. Like, yeah, it just was not a flattering concealer. So all of that 10 minutes of me ranting about this concealer to say, if you are someone who has dry skin, if you are someone who's looking for a drugstore concealer, I do not think this is the one to get. I think e.l.f. Hydrating Camo Concealer is just really good. It's also like half the price of this. And I was very disappointed because I wanted to love this so bad. That's why I wore it for like 2 months straight. But unfortunately, this just did not work for me. So that is my review of the Flower Beauty Get Real Serum Concealer. Let me know in the comments if you guys have tried this, if you have different feelings. I won't toss it just yet in case somebody's like, no, you have to try it this way. I'm open to being wrong. But yeah, that's it for today. That's the video. Thank you guys so much for watching. Subscribe if you want to. I'll see you in my next video. If you have any ideas for videos or anything you want to see from me, please let me know down below. And I hope you have a great day.